order and go from there. We want to have the view of the planning board. We don't have it in writing, but Ryan can tell us what it was that the planning board decided. If we've just lost his face, but he may return.
I'm still here, Colton. I'm still here.
Well, then
Ghost.
in lack of a, we are now officially called to order. In the lack of the planning board report back to us, Ryan, tell us about the planning board's work.
So the planning board voted a positive recommendation for both the area variance request for the expansion of the new porch, of the new front porch. And
Kathy, you disappeared when that gentleman turned the light off. That's better.
there we go. So the planning board voted, I believe it was a 4-to-1 vote in favor of the area variance to expand the porch. 4 ayes and 1 abstention. But the motion passed to provide a positive recommendation for the front porch, the new front porch plan and its expansion. And the impact would be 8 feet and a half, 0.5 inches. And therefore the relief sought is 1 foot and 0.5 inches. And the second area variance to exceed the permitted 30% lot coverage to 30.09% was also voted favorably, and with, I believe, a 4 ayes and 1 abstention, which approved the positive recommendation for that area variance. But we can, of course,
And the variance is 0.9, is that right? It's 30.9.
right, the relief sought would be 0.09% for the lot coverage extension.
Right.
And
Well,
of course, all of these minutes as well as recommendation will be a part of the ZBA's minutes and can be available for the public at the conclusion of this meeting. But the planning board felt that there was not going to be a heavy impact or an extreme impact based on what was being requested. Possibly if the lot was designed different, the Mazzarellas might not even need a variance, but that is not the case. And the front yard is designed and how it's designed, and there's just that minor impact on the curve of the
Well,
porch.
I'd like to move along now and hear
Sure.
from the Mazzarellas themselves.
Sure. Frank, are you, you want to unmute?
Hello. Hi,
Hey, Frank.
can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, right?
Yes.
Can everybody see this screen now?
Sure.
Can you enlarge it?
Is it small? Can you see so this is the first sheet. Can you, everybody see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Anybody who can't? Good. Let's go ahead.
So there, just to clarify, it's actually, so the variance in terms of lot coverage is 0.9%, so less than 1%. And the actual, the front yard variance is 1.5 feet, because I think there was a typo in the actual announcement. So it's 1 foot 6 inches. So if I could zoom in on this as well. Again, it's a very, kind of semi-triangular shaped site. And the issue is that really that the house, some of the main living spaces are really kind of landlocked. And there's this drive which goes all the way through the site. And so the idea was to open the living room more, create a somewhat more generous living room facing the street, and a sunroom addition on the north side.
How many, Frank, how many square feet of livable space are you adding to the house? It's the sunroom addition is going to be a heated area,
Yes,
and the living room is expanding to the line of the existing front porch.
yes. So there, yes, that's the other thing. So the exact square, I think it's about between 600 and 700. It's basically this L shape that I'm kind of
Yes,
drawing with my hand. That's the interior portion of the addition.
right.
Then there's a small entry, covered entry here, and there's a larger covered porch on the side to give them privacy facing the neighbors, which are very close on the north side. So it's, obviously I do have the square footage somewhere. It's between 600 and 700.
That's okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure I understood what I was looking at. This
Okay.
is all fine. It's actually an improvement to the way the building looks.
Yeah, so the existing porches are all vinyl, so vinyl columns, vinyl handrails, vinyl lattice work underneath the porch. Even the decking is a plastic, composite material, both on the front and on the side. So the idea is to make that all of wood. The rest of the house is rather nicely built, kind of solidly built and simply detailed. So all of these structural members, all of the wood is going to be 4x8 beams, which extend out. They're resting on solid wooden columns, which kind of curve around the front, similar to some of the curved porches that you see in the village of Rhinebeck. There's some on Livingston Street, some on Platt. So it's a very kind of soft, and also that curve helps mitigate how much we encroach into the actual setback requirements.
I was going to say, Frank, that there is also that question that was before the planning board. Do you want to say something about that encroachment?
Yes. So the green line, the green dashed line, which I'm outlining here, represents the lot line. And the 10-foot, if we were to draw a 10-foot setback, this is the red line, which you see here, which are the setback requirements. So the area that encroaches actually is this kind of crescent shape here. So the 1.5 foot is actually at the largest point of this circle here, this crescent. And then it actually goes down to 0 pretty quickly. So it's not even consistently 1.5 foot. It's this crescent shaped piece here. That's the only encroachment into the 10-foot setback.
No problem.
Yeah.
Well, and the only problem is that we don't have something official from the planning board, but I think we all trust Rowan as our best voice from what the planning board recently reviewed and decided.
Colton, there's one small detail that would make me very comfortable with not having the planning board notes. Ryan, you said that 4 people were in favor and 1 person abstained, and they abstained apparently from both variances. Why did that person abstain?
From what I recall, the member abstained for the reasons that they felt that having such an extension they felt seemed a little overdone. I don't want to put too many words in this person's mouth. I mean, it's on. It'll be part of the minutes, but they just felt that having just such an expansion from the front all the way around, all the way almost to the garage, sort of just the trifecta of elements, the porch, the sunroom, and then the other front porch. They felt it was just too much. So that's why they abstained from voting, that they were sort of torn on whether to vote for it or against it. So they decided to abstain.
May I intervene? We did not hear that opinion at all. So I don't know if that was something that happened prior to the meeting privately.
Well,
No,
It doesn't
Frank, what
matter.
happened
Not expressed.
was the planning board member failed to answer why he abstained.
may
during the
may
meeting.
I, as chair, even without a gavel, suggest that we don't have what we would usually have, and Brian's doing his best to remember and to tell us what happened. And I don't think that that's an appropriate way to do this, but I don't also think that it's a reason for changing a good decision based on what we know rather than what we haven't quite heard.
I would like to say one more thing about, I'm sorry, Colton, am I?
No, go ahead.
interrupting
Go ahead.
you? So we see in the middle photograph, we see the dimension that they're adding, which is the front porch. And in the upper picture, we see this porch sticking out on the side. So, and here's the driveway. So all they're doing is taking this porch and they're wrapping it around the side of the building. Is that correct, Frank?
It is correct. With the addition, we're putting a roof over the portion on the side as well. It's
Yeah, of
going to be a
course.
standing seam metal roof, so we
Yeah, of
think it's
course.
also an improvement over the
Yeah.
asphalt roofs.
Beautiful. So
Mhm.
I think this is actually an improvement for this building. I don't know how you guys feel about the view toward the driveway, but it's certainly not going to hurt by having a component like this porch running along the side of it. You can see, looking at the lower picture, the bottom picture, there's their fence. Here's their fence. Here on this side to the left of the building is the giant hedge, which blocks off the multifamily housing that's on the other side of this. And by the way, this lane in front is a one-way street. So people will always be, unless they're on foot, people will always see the face of the building, the north face of the building, would actually be very improved by having a piece running along there. It's going to put those windows inside. Okay.
Well, that said, I would like to entertain a motion from the board for opening the public meeting. Is it moved?
Yes, please.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Let's open it and hear if there are anyone who would like to speak on behalf of the public in that part of our village. Well, I guess we do or don't. We don't?
Kathy was there. Is Kathy still there?
Would you identify yourself a little bit?
Are you looking for us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, we are Kathy and Fred Reynes. We are actually the next door neighbors. Our house is at the corner of John's Way and Bird Court, and we have no objection to the plans. Correct.
Thank you. That makes it easy,
Thank
even
you.
easier. I think it's going to be an improved view from your property.
I
If we
certainly.
agree on that, I would like to have a motion to close the public meeting.
Motion
Make a
made.
motion. Mhm.
I've got three motions. One of them
Second it.
is a second, so let's do that and have the discussion by the board. And I think we've had a fair range of discussion already. Are there
Can
other
I make,
things to talk about?
I have just a couple of points I'd like to
Yes, Mr.
bring
Chair.
up. We're not really here to talk about the aesthetics of it, but I agree with what's been said. It looks like a handsome addition. I'm a little upset about what might seem very picky, but I don't understand why you measure the 8'6" on the diagonal. Generally, when you talk about a setback, it's at right angles to the lot line. And if you measure that, that's hard to do on what we've been provided for. It's more like 6'10", so where you're actually asking for 3'2" of relief. And when I try and follow your numbers in the zoning conditions and requirements box, nothing works out quite exactly as stated here. So I just feel a little uneasy since we don't have the, measurements exactly for everything here as to just how you get to the proposed square footage and so on. Nevertheless, I mean, it's a tight design, and I don't see how you can bring back the porch in the front behind the 10-foot setback without causing tremendous complications in the roofing as you go around the corner if you keep the sunroom addition as is. I think I should just point out to everybody that, to get, it's actually 3.95% if you follow the numbers you've given, not 3.09. But you could reduce, it's about a matter of 100 square feet. If you look at the total length of the building shown on the page 2, I think it is sheet 3, 72 foot long, and it's about 33 foot across the frontage. That means to reduce it by some like 100 square feet, you have to shrink this proposal a foot along the side and the front. Maybe that's not acceptable to the client. It might make the study a little too slim. I don't think it would really affect the living room. So I just wonder, just why you chose to just push the edge, the envelope, as it were, that little bit.
Actually, we thought we were fine, and it was really like kind of a surprise at the end that we were over at all. And the issue of the width of that room has been very, debated with the owners. And I've actually, I was advocating for making it as narrow as possible because of the driveway being so close and vehicles and all of that and snow removal. And that is really, it's been a struggle to really get to be that thin, in terms of what the owners were looking for. And in terms of the lot coverage, there was really no, so the building is it's modulated, all those beams. So there are columns. The columns are resting on a bluestone base. So there are things like, sometimes it's hard to chop something off without throwing the whole structural system off. But
Understood.
yeah. And maybe there is an error. I did measure it perpendicular to that. So I don't, maybe one that was dimensioned. So the 1'6" or the 2, yeah.
All I could do was scale it off what was given us.
I did actually measure it, but as you're saying, which is logical to measure it perpendicular to the actual. So maybe that's just a matter of dimensioning it on that plan at the last minute. But yeah, and the other thing I said was just really, it was random. I was kind of surprised that we were actually over. But it seemed like it was, unless I calculate that very, very accurately. Maybe there's an error with the percentage, but I do know when I do a polyline around it, and there's no, I could probably have fudged it and said it was 0, but
no, I understand.
I really, if there's an error there, maybe it's in the percentage and not so much the actual square footage, because that is actually a polyline, which I calculate the area in the program. So, yeah.
Oh, thank,
It seems that the requested variance is not significant, and rather if
Agreed.
it's,
Kevin, it sounds almost as if you're moving us to a motion to grant, dismiss, or further discuss this.
I can make a motion.
I'll second it. But
Okay,
let's hear
so-
what it
Excuse
is.
me, Larry.
I guess we should let him state it, Colton.
You're a great seconder, but maybe we should hear what the
Yes,
motion.
I see.
Okay, so because the benefit to the applicant is greater than the detriment to any neighbor, as we have heard from two neighbors, I am one of the neighbors, Kathy and Fred Reynes are the others. It is not going, because it's not going to produce a detriment to the character of the neighborhood. Because the requested area variance is not substantial, because the proposed variance will not have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood, because the alleged difficulty or the actual difficulty was not self-created. I move that we approve the requested variance.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
You do already.
Yes, you were the first. Thank you. Well, then, if there are no further things that the members of the board want to discuss, I would ask that all those in favor of Kevin's motion say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
I think it's unanimous.
Yes.
Now, the one thing that we have to consider before we vote to close is whether we feel that there should be any conditions from the ZBA to attach to our approval, basically, of what's been proposed here. If not, don't feel that you aren't doing your jobs. I can't think of anything at this point. And
No.
then,
I don't see any problem, Colton, with this application. It doesn't need a rider or any other kind of limitations on it. It's a modest request. And in terms of all the different architectural and lot line things that happen in the village, this is a minor infringement on those rules. It's really, I don't see it as a consequence.
well, I don't see them, but then of course, I was an English major, but let's then have a vote if that is suitable. All those, yes?
Christopher, were you wanting to say something, sir?
Yeah, I just thought we might point out, it was briefly raised in a way that we have a very unusual situation here of this diagonal frontage. It's very uncommon in the village. Everything is sort of rectilinear, and it makes it very easy to assess the impact of a setback or variance from a setback. Here it's quite unusual, and you just got this little tiny bit that intrudes into the setback as a result. So I think mentioning that, to me, one of the reasons to accept this intrusion is because it's just a little blip on a line, not all the way along the line, which it would normally be in the village. And that's related to the fact that the front of the lot is on a diagonal to the rest of the lot.
That's a good point.
That is a good point. I think that sort of modification might have come from the planning board had they did that.
Mhm.
We have had a motion and it has been seconded. May I call for a vote on Kevin's motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All of us?
Aye.
None opposing?
4-0.
I think it is time then for us to remember that we have done what we've done for anything this evening, and unless there's anything by any members of the board, I would move that, and I hope I would have a second, that we adjourn.
Second,
No, Colton, we haven't approved the minutes from the 2 meetings, maybe even 3 meetings.
I just want to say thank you from, my parents and to you, the
Frank,
board.
seems like a good project.
We appreciate
You're
it.
very welcome, Frank.
I'd like to also say thank you very much. This is Sally Mazzarella speaking.
You're welcome, Sally.
Yes, Sally. Now then, Kevin, you're right. We have some unapproved minutes in the, and I asked Ryan about that, and I'm sure that we'll have on our agenda for our next meeting so many of those minutes that it'll become a memorable experience. It should happen, and I agree. As Ryan knows, we spoke about this earlier today. So,
Kevin, I could have sworn we were caught up, other than that one meeting in November where the majority of the board had voted to approve the 2 other ZBA hearings. I mean, there was one in August and July, and I believe those 2 sets of minutes were approved. The only thing outstanding is November. So,
Well, maybe you can check that. To my recollection, we're back to August 20th. To my recollection, and I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
okay, all right. I can definitely check.
When was the
once-
12 Oak Street? Was that November or before?
12 Oak Street was way back in the summer. That was either August or July, Christopher.
it seems as though
Because I sent some comments on those minutes and I never saw whether they were incorporated or not incorporated.
They were incorporated, yes.
And were they redistributed? Because I didn't see anything.
I can certainly redistribute them. I mean, once they're voted on with amendments, then, they get posted on the village's website. So, but I can certainly
I'd like to
redistribute them.
I would like to suggest that we probably don't need to vote on it, but I would like the minutes to show that we have urged Ryan to check what of the minutes in the last several meetings of the board have not been reviewed and approved. And if there are none, we will accept that. And if there are 1 or 2, those are things that we should do to keep our record straight. If you agree, I don't think I need to ask you to vote, but if you feel like that would be an appropriate thing, please call for a vote.
I think it's appropriate. I would like to see the paper copies of these notes, and then we can vote on it. We'll pick up Christopher's notes. We can, Eric, if you have any concerns about Oak Street, we can discuss that. So I move to close our meeting.
That sounds like an emotion to adjourn. Do
That's
have-
what I
I
meant.
second it. I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Have a good night, everyone, and happy
Okay.
holidays and a safe new year. Safe and happy new year.
Thank you.
Happy holidays to
you.
everybody.